To what we call the team, because even though it says Force and Styles featuring on the record, everyone else involved was as big a part as, you know, whether that be Junior and Jenna or the dancers or anyone else that was helping us at
MCs.
the time, MCs. I mean, a strange question, but I was speaking to Bert the other day, and I might mention to you as well, about the amount of MCs we got through on the Forces and the Evolution PAs.
Yeah.
And I think there was like a total of 7 or 8 MCs. We were really lucky in the fact that we had Junior, but not so lucky that Junior would go on holiday on occasion.
Long holidays
on occasion. But we were lucky enough to have Charlie that would step in, the B. But let's start with Junior. We've mentioned he's just such a character, and I mean he was really, I don't know, did he look out of place with us too? This South London black guy with the 2 white lads from Clacton.
I mean, at that point, it was a different thing, wasn't it? What was going on?
Yeah.
Because also he wasn't. Don't forget, he wasn't necessarily part of the rave scene. So this was all that musically it was new to him, wasn't it? He was an MC, and he had obviously a fabulous voice, but he came from a soul sort of background.
Well, he did, but I mean, he was MCing. He used to MC at the Barn and the early Oscars days.
Yeah.
And actually, I was speaking to Stevie B the other day, and Steve said to me, he goes, "I just realised you nicked my MC because Junior used to MC for Steve, right in the early days." But that was very sort of like piano house kind of thing, very early rave kind of stuff. So, and it was when Junior had come back from one of his early holidays, I think, that he hooked up with us and said, "Oh, what are you playing, lads?"
Yeah.
I said, "Let's have a listen." And I think his actual words were, "What the fuck is that?"
Yeah.
But in true Junior style, he would just sing along to it, and it just worked.
It did.
But I mean, there was never a dull moment with him, was there?
No, he was so unique in so many ways.
Whether that be in the studio or on the road.
Yeah. In the car on the way to gigs.
Well, the mad thing is he got. I mean, he was an amazing mate. He would back us up to. It's really strange because one of the things I was going to talk about is times when we didn't get paid, and it's amazing that whenever Junior was with us, we always got paid.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
That's why we started taking him to every gig we did.
Every gig we did. Yeah. But he had so many friends all over the country. So we'd go to a gig, and whether that be Liverpool or Manchester, and then 4 months later we'd go back to the same gig, and Junior knew everyone. I said, "How do you know everyone?" He goes, "Oh yeah, I stayed at his house and when I stayed with them," and he was great friends with the Birkenhead crew.
Yeah.
So whenever we went out to Liverpool, he'd bugger off to Birkenhead and go and hang out with all the Birkenhead guys, and he just loved everywhere. It's just insane. But that was his character. And although, yes, he'd done some naughty things in his time, and you know,
but he was a lovable rogue, wasn't he?
He was a lovable rogue.
That's what
and
it
actually,
was.
one of the, apart from being the cream on the cake for the tracks, because he did make us stand out in that sense with his voice on there. One of the things I remember when he was on holiday once, and okay, look, let's just be honest, he went to prison a couple of times for a couple of things, but I remember him phoning up one day and saying, "Paul," he said, "why don't you come and have a visit? It's Reggie's birthday." I said, "Reg who?" He goes, Reggie Cray. It's like, oh, I didn't know you was in with, yeah, of course I'm in with Reg, we're mates and everything. So he said, come up, and you and Darren Das come up, and I'll introduce you. I remember going up there. Do you remember it?
I remember it very well.
And we've gone in, and I can't remember where is that, whether he was at Wayland or High Point or where he was at the time. And we've gone in, and we've sat down, and we'd actually, as we'd walked in with Reggie's family. And I think...
Not realising it.
I think you could tell by the trench coats.
Right, yeah.
But walked in with the family, and what was really strange is the prison guards were like, all over them, weren't they? And we've walked in, and so we see where they sat down, and then we see Reggie walk in, and Jay's talking to us, and all we're doing is looking over at Reggie. And he goes, do you want to meet him now? I said, oh, yeah, go on, mate. And we're just sat there kind of like three little kids not knowing what to do with ourselves. And Reggie's come over, he's gone, all right, boys.
Crushed my hand to death.
He's crushed your hand to death. And said hello, and we had a little chat for a minute or two, and then off he's gone. And Jay sat there, he goes, look at you lot. He said, wait, what do you think you're doing? But I think the best part of that story is a couple of weeks later, I was sat in the office, and the phones rang, and I picked up, gone, UK Dance, and Jay's gone, 4 seat. I said, hello, mate, you all right? He goes, yeah, Reg wants a word. I was like, Reg wants a word with me. He goes, yeah, he's right here. I'll just put him on the phone. So Reg has come on the phone. He's gone, all right, Paul. I'm going, all right, Reg, you all right? He said, yeah. He says, I'm going out soon. I said, oh, yeah, I'd heard a story. He goes, well, yeah. He goes, Dave Courtney's organising my do when I get out, and we want you to DJ. It's like, you want us to DJ at your party when you get out? He goes, yeah. Can you do that for me? It's like, yeah, I think we can.
Let's be honest, we're not going to say no.
We weren't going to say no. I did say I would let Jay pick up the money for the fee. But, I mean, just little things like that. It's insane. I mean, sadly, he never got out and passed away in prison and everything else, so that never happened. But that was Junior all over, wasn't it? Just those little hookups, and it's crazy a story to tell. It's an amazing little story to tell that people don't know about. But then there's Jenna, probably the sweetest, kindest, loveliest person you're ever likely to meet in your life.
What a legend.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Funny enough, I put her in touch with a promoter the other day for a gig, and he's come back to me and said, my God, I've just spoken to Jenna. Is she just the nicest person in the world? I was like, yeah, basically. Yeah, she's heaven sent.
She's always so happy, isn't she?
I've never seen anyone. And what was amazing, I mean, at the time, she was friends with Dave, wasn't she? Dave Dance that lived at mine at the time.
Yes.
Yeah. And she just lived round the corner, quite literally about a minute and a half walk from mine. And we just got into the studio one day to try it out, and the magic happened.
Yeah.
And it just kind of worked for us. And so it was amazing to have someone there that we just phone up going, oh, Jen, you couldn't pop round, could you, for 5 minutes? We've got an idea. And of course, Jenna being Jenna, she said, yeah, not a problem, I'll be round. Because she'd only been young at the time, hadn't she?
I think she was a year younger than me at school, because I remember when we were first making tunes, I was still at sixth form, wasn't I, when we were still making the tune. So, but yeah, to have someone who literally at the drop of the hat, she'd literally just walk round the corner and come in and put a vocal down for us, that was... that was amazing.
And of course on the PAs, and her and Junior on PAs together was just brilliant.
Yeah.
It's just so much fun. But one of the things I've always kind of felt a bit bad about was when we did Heart of Gold 98. It had been signed to the Pinnacle Diverse Records, and I remember they turned around to us and said, "Who do you want to sing it?" And our first thought wasn't, well, Jen, obviously.
Yeah.
It was Kelly LaRenna, because we both loved Kelly's tracks, and we said, oh, it's got to be Kelly. It's got to be Kelly, because I think at the time all we could see was top 40.
Yeah, and we'd been kind of not been brainwashed, but we'd been kind of with the label. They were like, this is going to be a hit.
Yeah.
And it had a different thought process, wasn't it? At that point, it was
Yeah, but I think the point of the whole thing was Kelly at the time was an absolute hero to us with Set You Free.
Well, with that record, she was the queen of dance, wasn't she?
Absolutely. But we had some great laughs with Kelly. It was, I mean, when we went to record, I think she come down to Clacton to record the hardcore version. Now, obviously, we went to Sheffield to do the pop version.
Yeah.
But typical Manchester girl, she lived in Bracknell all the time. Do you remember that first time we went and picked her up?
Yes, I do,
and then we drove up to Sheffield.
Yeah.
And when she came down to Clacton, she certainly gave my next door neighbour a fright because we was playing Truth or Dare. We I think in the lounge, and she took a dare, and the dare was to pop outside and go topless, I think, which she did in front of my neighbour's house.
We should point out this was after a heavy night out, wasn't it? It wasn't like randomly in the day, was it?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't 12 in the afternoon or anything like that. It was quite late. But apparently he was up, and it's the happiest he's been for a long time.
Well, there you go. You can't grumble then, can he?
No, not at all. So we had some good laughs with Kel, and then there was Kelia, which was a thing that didn't last for. It was whilst we was with
Pinnacle.
With Pinnacle, that I don't know why we had the idea of the duet version of Paradise and Dreams. I can't even remember how that came about.
Me too, but I'm pretty sure she came via the label, didn't she?
She was at the Brit School.
Right.
So we was looking for, I think potentially it was, because didn't Paradise and Dreams come before Heart of Gold? I'm sure that we did that before Heart of Gold. And I think we was looking for a singer to sing for us. And they found Kelia at the Brit School. And Kelia came down and she did, for whatever reason, we did the duet version of Paradise and Dreams. But also for whatever reason, the relationship didn't work out and we didn't go forward with it, even though she was an incredible singer.
Phenomenal.
Ridiculously good singer.
Yeah.
But she was very, very young at the time. I think she was still 17, maybe even 16 at the time. And so it was getting her back, because she lived down south somewhere, I think, or near London. It wasn't easy to come back and forth to us in Clacton, because her mum used to bring her down, I think, from what I remember. So it wasn't kind of something that could work all the time. So unfortunately, but what a voice. I mean, I remember the first time playing out that mix, just the look on people's faces when her big note comes in the middle of that.
That was a phenomenal voice.
Yeah.
Did she go on to do other stuff afterwards?
I'm sure she has. I mean, I've got her on Facebook. I should ask her, really. But I'm sure she's done bits and pieces.
Yeah.
I'm not sure she still sings now, to be honest. I can see this ticking over in your head now.
Thinking, let's wrap this up.
Let's wrap this up. Yeah, I've got some work to do.
Yeah.
So, outside of the singers, there were a few other people involved in things. Colin Brett being one of them.
On the old guitar.
On the old guitar. Colin was a bit of a legend. So Colin was a washing machine engineer. I
think he still is, you know.
Is he still a washing machine engineer?
Well, only because I still see the van drive past it every now and again.
But boy, he could play guitar. And I think come through a friend of a friend. I can't remember who it was that knew Colin. But we got Colin to come in because I believe we was doing Heart of Gold 98 at the time. And we wanted to recreate the guitar bit in the original Heart of Gold, but with real guitar. Loved a bit of real instruments because it was dance music. Why not? Let's just mess about with it. But he really added another dimension to the stuff. And although I guess Heart of Gold 98 was never seen as better than the original, it really did add something to the PAs with Colin coming on
Yeah, it
stage.
was definitely more for the live show, wasn't it, really?
Yes.
That side of it. And it was phenomenal because, again, no one had really done that, particularly in our sort of scene. Suddenly a guitarist up there with, two guys behind the keyboards, two singers.
Well, hold on, let's just be honest about it. One guy behind the keyboard, the other one kind of pressing a few buttons on a sampler. That'd be me. Yeah. But do you recall? Well, we did a few with Cole. Tribal Gathering was one.
Yep.
Then we did
Helter Skelter.
Helter
wasn't it?
Skelter. Did we do a res or one of the Scotland gigs at the Royal Highland Centre? We
Yeah.
did on that massive stage. He was on his knees and everything. He was loving it, wasn't he? Like, playing guitar in front of 5,000 to 6,000 people.
Yeah.
And I think, but the best one was Hardcore Heaven.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Where
Absolutely slammed, wasn't it?
it's insane. I'm sure
Sanctuary Milton Keynes.
Sanctuary for Milton Keynes, done the PA, finished the PA, and we'd planned to do, I say you guys had planned to do this live kind of acoustic thing with Junior singing, you playing keyboards and Colin on guitar.
Yeah.
And oh my God, literally the whole crowd had lighters up and everything. And
Yeah.
it was amazing, wasn't it?
That was a
It
moment.
was a moment where you don't play live music in a way, but it kind of worked.
Yeah.
It really was something
Yeah.
else. So a lot of love for Cole. He's such a lovely lad as well, isn't he? And great at what he does. And all the dancers. So we got through lots of lots and lots of different dances over the time.
Which was a short period of time, really, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
If you think about it. We've spoken about this before, but, it wasn't like we were doing that Force and Styles thing for like 10 years or something. It ended up being, 5 years maybe?
I guess 4 or 5, 99, 2000.
But it was only from 96
96
to 99
Yeah, doing the
that
PAs,
we were
really.
out there doing that.
Yeah. And there was lots of different collectives of dancers that would dance with us. So I'm trying to remember everyone. So Maxine and Danny and Scott and everyone was dancing at one point, and I think Lisa and Lorraine were dancing at one point. And then you had Junior's brother. There was Errol and Winky. And there's the two girls, I can't recall their name, but they worked with them guys, didn't they?
Yeah.
And they did it for a bit.
And that was the Scotland one. So I remember them coming to the Scotland one.
It was the Scotland one, yeah. And then Colin was there.
Yeah.
So there was, PA-wise, there was like 8 of us, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Just about.
Yeah.
It was
We had a big old entourage, didn't we, at the time?
It was a big old entourage at the time, yeah. So, they were just fun times. I don't know if you remember this. There was another one when we was going down to Brixton. Do you remember the dance studio at Brixton we were
I do
going down
remember
to?
that,
And
yeah.
like those dances, which I think Pinnacle had got for us. So that's another whole set of dancers
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was Errol was involved in that. It possibly was, but all happened within a few years, which
Yeah,
is pretty
like I
mad,
say, it's a
really.
short space of time that was.
It is a short space of time, but we can't get off this section without talking about Mr. B, Mr. Charlie B.
Oh, Charles.
Because when Mr. Junior wasn't around, Mr. Charlie B would stand in, and got a lot of love for the Charles.
Oh, God, yeah.
He's-
Again, another MC with a huge personality, on and off stage.
It's amazing, this kind of connection with personality and MCs. I mean, what is that about?
I mean, I think to be an MC and stand in front of that crowd and command the crowd, you've got to be that kind of person, haven't you? But yeah, it went from not just a sort of a professional thing. It was just mates, wasn't it? Again, playing football. He'd come up in the office most days and just sit there whilst we were making tunes.
Charlie,
and have some fun.
Charlie moved down to Clacton, didn't he? And I think he even lived at mine for a bit, probably.
Yeah.
Like most people
Most
did.
people did, didn't they, back then?
Most people lived at mine for a little bit. And living back down this way again.
Yeah.
Because he loved it so much.
Yeah.
But it's nice to just have mates that have been there for like quite literally 30 years, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's and everyone's just still pals now. Most people are anyway. I'm sure there's a few that have fallen out over the time. But I guess that covers the team section and everyone that was really involved. If we have missed anyone out, then apologies, because it's always difficult to remember.
We best give Darce a shout because he was behind the scenes. I mean, he
Sorry,
liked
Darce.
he liked to think he was a bit of something, didn't he?
Darce, so for anyone that doesn't know Darcy was... He should have been an MC, really, because he got the personality to be an MC.
He wanted to be GQ. He still does. I
He
think.
do want it to be GQ. But the funny thing about Darcy, if I ever speak to him now, he hasn't changed one iota.
He's lost a few hairs.
He's lost a cut. Yeah, I'm not talking from a physical point of view. I'm talking personality-wise. It's going to kill you for that. You know that, don't you?
Oh, no.
But Rob would. Oh, you're going to lead us on. We're going to literally overrun on this one now because we've got to talk about Glenda as well.
We digress. Oh, yeah, you can't. You've got to give Glenda a shout.
Yeah, we've got to give Glenda a shout. So Darcy was your best mate anyway.
Yep.
And so was always around. And that's not meant badly. He was just always about because we were just all mates. But he ended up started working for us at UK Dance.
Yeah.
Which was his dream because...
Got him off the streets.
He got him off the streets. The boy could talk, and I remember that first month, his wages was one thing, the phone bill was twice as high. but he's a good lad, always is and always will be.
Yeah.
So Darcy, and of course Glenda, Glenn, as a lot of people won't know him as Glenda, but Glenn used to travel everywhere with us, and then with you as when you was doing your Down with Style stuff as well.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been there. He's been there, isn't he, since day one?
Yeah, absolutely. So, but just all integral parts of
the machine.
Of the machine, you know, whether that's working with us or even just travelling with us, because that's just as important, really. Yeah. Because there's plenty of times when heads were nodding in the car and needed a bit of an elbow to wake up. So
I remember once when you were driving, me and Darcy were in the back of your car, and we've been driving for a couple of hours, probably like 5 or 6 in the morning. You had your window down. It was the middle of winter, right? And we were in the back of the car, and Darcy just looked at me with his side eye as if to say, he's got that window open again. And I'm thinking, well, probably because we need to survive. Otherwise, he is going to fall asleep. But it was freezing in the back, you know, like the snow's coming in and all the rest of it. We're in the back.
Do you know what? Funny enough, I remember vividly, I used to put the window down just enough to put my hand out, and if it was raining I'd angle my hand so the rain would hit my hand and then hit my face.
The things you do to stay awake.
It was utterly ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, my mum's probably going to be listening to this and completely cane me for it because she hated one thing. She hated was
why didn't you just pull over?
Why didn't you just pull over? There's a good reason why I didn't pull over, and I'll put this in there now. Is that on one occasion I was on my own. I don't know where you were. I can't remember whether this one was DJing separately or whatever reason. But I was driving down the M4, I think, and I was really tired, pulled over to one of the services, and I parked up behind this hedge and put the seat down and gone to sleep. And then dreamt I was driving. And so I'm dreaming that I'm driving, and then I wake up and I'm in the car.
In a hedge?
Thinking I'm driving, and it took me about a minute to literally come around and figure out, oh no, I've been sleeping.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And just the thought of doing that again was like, no,
I see. Yeah, there's a method in your madness.
There's a method in my madness. I'd rather take the chance of the rain on my face and getting home in one go. So I wanted to talk about that time when we'd obviously started to make some noise with the tracks going out on UK Dance. We was working with Chris at United Dance because we was playing the parties. Chris had actually put out the first album, hadn't he, on United Dance all over the UK.
Yep.
And then we had some interest from Pinnacle, who was a big distribution company at the time, but had various different labels. Chris has set a label up with Pinnacle called Diverse Recordings. Or Diverse Records, whichever one it was, I can't remember now. And so we signed to Diverse Records as Force and Styles. So there's some funny stories, which there's always a funny story in everything that we did back then. But that was a big thing for us, I guess.
It was.
Because as much as we're all about the hardcore, we always, as well, we strive for that kind of. We wanted that kind of success, didn't we?
We did. I think most people generally do.
Of course they do.
But the fact is, it's about maintaining
integrity.
Yeah, but also, you know, I think it can be done easier these days. But
it can.
But back then, you know, the harder stuff, particularly the word happy hardcore, was frowned upon. So, and it didn't gain any momentum outside of the actual scene itself.
I think as well, with back in those days where raves were almost a dirty word as well.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's just kind of part and parcel of life, and you could probably make a track in any style and it could chart.
Yeah.
These days.
So I think unfortunately, what kind of happened at that point is that we were we thought by sort of, I guess, watering down the sound or making it more mass appealable, that would be the way to go with it.
I have no idea what we were thinking at the time, to be honest with you.
No.
but it was part of the journey.
It was, of course.
And, our decisions were decisions, and, you got to live by that at the end of the day. Whether they were the right ones or not, we still had a lot of laughs and a lot of fun along the way doing that. Now, one of the things I'd mentioned to you earlier that I wanted to talk about was, because I think people might be able to understand where heads may have been at that time when you talk about stuff like this. When you sign to a record label, you have to get the contract looked at by lawyers. And so they'd given us a list of lawyers, and we liked the sound of the posh ones that we chose down in London. And we went down there to have a meeting with them and go over the contract. Now, considering, strangely enough, when we used to DJ, right? We DJ'd, we used to get paid 250 quid or whatever it was at the time, which we had to share between ourselves, which, is a pittance compared to what people are getting paid these days. And this lawyer was £250, maybe even £300 an hour at the time as well.
A minute, probably.
Probably a minute. And I just remember going to the office and then saying, okay, I think it was Mr. Bray or Mr. Babington, whichever one it was. He'll be down to see you shortly. Would you like to take a seat in his office? And so we sat down in this office, and there's just piles of folders everywhere, and just sitting there minding our own business. And one has caught my eye. And as I've looked to the floor, I've seen written on this folder, Robbie versus Take That. And I just looked at you and went, Dale, you seen that? We just thought,
and then we were like, we've made it.
We've made it, yeah.
That's it.
So that was a kind of, when you kind of see stuff like that, you think, Christ, this is, there's no messing about with these guys.
No.
And so we signed a deal, and the first one that we touched on earlier that we did was Paradise and Dreams, and it was great because they'd obviously managed to find Keelia, and like we said before, she had an amazing voice, and we'd put together Paradise and Dreams duet version, and they hired out Battery Studios for us, which is, I can't even remember where in London that is. Is it Northwest? Something like that.
Couldn't even tell you. All I know is it's in London.
It's in London. It's just in the bit inside the M25.
Yeah.
That's close enough for you. So Battery Studios, and there's a slight irony to this from what we've just said previously, is it's a big complex of studios. I think we was in Studio 5, and to us that was still it's just a killer.
It's
studio,
going up in the world, isn't it?
That's what it was. It's going up in the world, and
much better than a studio with carpet all over the walls. Let's just say that.
Indeed, it was. Yeah. So we'd taken everything down with us. Still Atari. We're still on Atari at the time. I guess we may well have been.
I think we were at that point.
Possibly. Taking keyboards down there, studio, I think. But the track was made. And it was literally just a matter of, did we re-record the vocals there?
Got the vocals done there,
Got the vocals done there, and then mixed the track down there. The thing about that, though, is a certain Mr. Robbie Williams was recording his first album in one of the other studios at the same time. And as young guys making your way in the music scene, when you hear that kind of stuff, it's just like,
it was pretty cool. I don't think we actually got to physically see him, did we?
Did. I don't tell people that part of the story.
Right,
no, it's just that he was there recording it. In my head, he was recording Angels at the time.
Yeah, let's just go with that.
We'll go with that. So he was recording Angels whilst we was recording Paradise and Dreams in Studio 5. But after Paradise and Dreams, we did Heart of Gold. And that, the mad thing about Heart of Gold was they said to us at the label, one, who do you want to sing it? because I think we kind of decided that the Keeley route was going to be difficult because of where she lived and getting back and forth and stuff. Who do you want to sing it, and who do you want to produce it? And it was like, well, we have the choice. So we've gone with Kelly, like we mentioned before. But producer-wise, I think I'd been reading a music magazine previously about producers and read about Elliot Kennedy. And Elliot was basically the man behind the Spice Girls.
Yeah, take that, all of it, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he still writes with Gary now.
Yeah.
Got him on Facebook and stuff, and I sort of follow what he's doing. And so we said, we want that guy. We were working with Five at the time.
One of those boy bands, wasn't
One of
it?
the boy bands, yeah. And so they were based up in Sheffield. So the label had organised it. Yep, they're going to produce a track for you. So we picked up Kelly, didn't we, from Bracknell. We drove up to Sheffield. They put us up in the hotel, went and met Elliot and Mike and Tim, and who were working with Elliot at the time. Now, Mike and Tim, who I don't know how long it took for the information to come out, but they were in Dead or Alive, weren't they?
They made that record, didn't they?
They made, Spin Me Round.
Yeah.
So they made me Spin Me Round. They weren't Pete Burns.
They definitely
They
weren't
were the
Pete
other
Burns.
two.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a big step up for us, working with those kind of people.
Mm-hmm.
But that studio was insane, wasn't it?
That's the first proper studio, like real proper studio. I mean, it was huge, wasn't it?
And do you remember that first? I think it was the first morning we got there, and Elliot said, "Right, what we're going to do is we're going to go into one of the writing studios as well, didn't
Yeah.
we? So we're going to write some verses for the song because, like we said earlier, it wasn't a full song.
Right.
So we got in there, and I was sitting with the guy that kind of writes for the Spice Girls and writes for Take That and writes for this, that, and the other. And he was going through it, and he's going, "This is absolute poetry." Do you remember him saying that?
Yeah, I do.
It was like, and I was actually thinking, well, actually, it was kind of written like poetry, really, rather than the song, to be honest with you. But and did Hicks come up to that? Did Hicksy come up to that?
I think
one,
on the first day he came up.
Did he come up?
Yeah.
And
He stayed over, didn't he?
yeah, I think so. I think the funny thing was, I mean, Kelly was there the first time, obviously, to record the vocal. And so she recorded the vocal, and then we went back a couple of times, I believe. But I seem to remember there was points, because we didn't really have much to do, because they were producing the track.
Yeah.
So we was just kind of watching, weren't
Yeah.
we? And we was upstairs in their little kind of breakout room, just playing FIFA again. It's like, well, so
Leaving them to it.
well, they're making the track. But they were good guys, though, weren't they? It was kind of for us that had just been sat in a house or in a studio all that time, just making tracks, to then experience
It was an amazing
the
experience.
complete other side of it.
Of course.
But the point being is that maybe people can understand why we're kind of taken in a little bit by that.
Absolutely.
You
You
know?
know, we were younger at the time, and again, I know I keep saying it, but everything was a first. We were all doing these things for the first time, and imagine not being given those or being given those opportunities at that point and saying no to it. You just never would have known what could have come from it.
Yeah.
So it was a no-brainer to take these things on.
I mean, I can only compare it with, I used to work at in Colchester, Royal London Insurance, as you'll remember, and I was a computer tech there. And so I was working on the third floor, but I'd have to go around to all the different departments and fix computers or install computers or whatever. But occasionally we would have to go to the fourth floor where the directors were, and they'd have really thick pile carpets, and it was completely different. And it's almost a similar kind of thing. You know,
Yeah.
you're kind of stepping into a realm that you're not used to, and you're
Yeah.
thinking, I like it up here. I want to be up here more. So it's that kind of, once you get a taste of it, you want a bit more of it. But there was some mad people that I say mad people. We met Howard Donald there. So he come in for a writing session.
Yep.
So that was pretty cool. We'd obviously recorded Angels with Robbie a few weeks previously.
Yeah. We're getting right in with the Take That, boys.
And then Howard comes in. But one of the funny, the girl band that we met there, so they came in It's 4 girls from the Northern Girls, weren't they? And called the Paper Dolls. Was it the Paper Dolls?
It rings a bell, but I could
Does
not
it
tell
ring
you
a
what
bell?
they were called.
So we got on really well with them, having a lot of laughs. I mean, they were about similar age to us, maybe a year or two younger, possibly.
Yeah.
That Elliot and the boys were working with, and the Elliot had taken over because he's a big Sheffield Steelers hockey fan, isn't he? So taking us all over to watch the ice hockey. I think the girls were staying up possibly as well, but got on really well with them. Had a lot of laughs with them, and then the pop career didn't massively happen for them, but one of them went on to become a pretty famous soap star, didn't she?
She was in Coronation Street?
No, she's in Emmerdale.
Emmerdale, that's the one.
She is Chaz Dingle.
That's it. I knew it was one of those ones.
She's been in it for years. Do you know, I honestly can't remember her actual real name. But I go, I know her.
Yeah.
No, we
met her once.
went to the ice hockey with her. No, do you remember we actually met them again down in London? Random, where Goldie's record label, well, Metalheads was in that complex. It was Chris Gilbert, I think. We'd met Chris Gilbert there, and the 4 girls come in for a meeting with someone else completely different.
Oh, okay.
Do you not remember?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
Your
that, do
dodgy
I?
memory, Dale. I tell thee. And so one of the other, or a couple of the other things that happened around that time with Pinnacle, which was quite mad. So we had one of the remixes of Paradise and Dreams was by Arthur Baker.
Yes.
And anyone that knows their music will know Arthur Baker is an absolute legend. And to have Arthur Baker remix your track was amazing enough anyway. But when we got the track back, and remembering that it was recorded at 165 BPM, the vocal.
Uh-huh.
And the track that he made was probably 120 BPM housey thing.
Yeah, it was around there, wasn't it?
And the vocal didn't, in our eyes, didn't work because it just kind of, you could hear it just slowed down.
Yeah.
So we gone back to the label and said, really sorry, any chance we can re-record the vocal at that speed? So they put us in the studio with Arthur Baker, didn't they? How mad was that?
Fabulous remix, though. I mean, the production on it was crazy.
It was insane. But to be, I just thought they said, oh, yeah, just we'll put you in the studio and record the vocal again over the backing track. But no, Arthur was there.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a cool meeting, wasn't it?
So it's amazing where you get with hardcore these days, And finally on this section, one of the other things I wanted to point out, because it was quite funny at the time, is when we first was signing up with Pinnacle, they said, well, we want all the guys to see your PA. So we're like, okay. So we managed to get Oscars on Clacton Pier to agree to allow us to use the club. And I don't know how many of the label come down, but there's quite a few of them, weren't there?
There was.
They all came down. It would have been much easier if it was a club night because it wouldn't have felt so bad. But
it was weird.
Had to do a PA in front of probably 30 people.
Yeah.
Which was a little odd.
In a dead club.
But they did later on. They come to Helter Skelter, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah.
They literally...
So they obviously enjoyed it.
They
wanted to see it properly live, didn't they?
Ironically, I spoke to someone, I think I probably mentioned this to you the other day. Someone came into my life when I was talking about old tracks online, and there's a company that had got Paradise and Dreams and Heart of Gold on the streaming services, and they just called me the other day, and it was Max, and he said, I said, I know your name from somewhere. He said, yeah, we've met before. I said, where? He goes, I worked at Pinnacle. We all come to Helter Skelter to see you. I was like, my God, that was 28 years ago. And it's mad how people are still in the scene of music.
It's a small world.
It is a very small world. So that, dear sir, concludes that section of the chat.
Okie dokie.
Do you remember?